Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Irish Goodbye Business Podcast. As you well know, this is a podcast where we speak to people who are crushing their career. They're not necessarily the keynote speakers, they're not CFOs, but they're people who are leaders or drivers within their companies, their businesses, and they're crushing it. And they just want to have a chat like we're having a beer. Today, I'm joined by Sebastien Fleury, who I've known a very long time. Myself and Sebastien work together. We've owned businesses together. And today, I'm thrilled to be joined by him. Sebastien, say hello.
Hi, everybody. Carl, it's an absolute pleasure to be part of your podcast. You're the new Joe Rogan.
I hope not. I have to start working out.
No comment.
So, look, thank you for joining us today. As you know, we had a brief chat before this. This is a conversation that you and I would usually have over a glass of vodka or whiskey and a cigar sitting in a bar and talking about our lives. And we've shared many a philosophy over the business life. So give us a little bit of history about kind of how you got to here. I mean, you've been in the military, you've been in sales, you've been in sales in America, in Europe. So please tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so quick introduction. So for those who didn't realize that I was French, thanks to my very subtle accent, I am French. I'm 53 years old. I'm married to a beautiful Irish woman, and I got two little boys that are 6 that I had in Ireland, where I met you. I have, as you said, worked in sales most of my life. I would say from a very early age, even if it was not pure sales related. I have worked as an individual contributor, and then I moved into a leadership role, and in the last 18 years, I have lived in different countries, and I have spent 19 years in Dublin, where I met you. I work for companies like Business Objects, SAP. I met you in Oracle, where I spent a few years, then went to work for a company called Indeed, and then came back to Oracle in the last 4 years. I left Oracle to start a new job in a company called Greatech, which is a software vendor and a partner. It's an Autodesk vendor. And I lead a team of salespeople covering different countries from France, Germany, Eastern countries, and Spain. And yeah, so that's more or less the journey, with loads of interruptions and loads of surprises along the way.
I think what you're not sharing with people is your introduction to Oracle was being stuck in Spain for 4 weeks with me.
In
And that
Malaga.
was a baptism of fire for all of us.
Yeah, in a
But
weird way, it made me come back here, and actually make us come back here. So it's
yes.
true.
So look, I know your sales career and you know your sales career, but I think the best salespeople I've met have had different starts or different breaks in the middle, something else in their career that's really injected itself into their psyche, into their mindset. So with that being said, is there any jobs you've had along the way that people wouldn't basically expect?
Wow, yes. So there is some I can speak here and some I can't, but let's say that I have a very how would I say, a very specific journey. But I had to work very early because I left my house pretty quickly. And when I was my 15th, I had to work, pay my rent, and go to school. So I had loads of work, not just summer jobs. Some of them were very, very funny. All of the jobs I had, I got something out of it. Even the worst jobs I had very short job. I had a job as a security man in a souvenir shop in one of the worst, dodgiest part of Paris. That lasted one day. I hated every single minute of this day. But at the end of the day, the owner of the shop said, "Okay, you can come back tomorrow. You're on a trial for a few days." And I was like, no, I'm supposed to be paid every day. And the guy kind of forgot that I was his security guy. So I said, "You can have to pay me now, and I'm not coming back tomorrow." So it lasted one day, but what I learned from this one is that don't let anybody walk on you, and make sure that you pick the thing carefully. Don't jump in any stupid thing just because you need a job. I had 2 or 3 jobs that were pretty appalling. Um, I was bartender for years. I was bartender in numerous clubs and bars in Paris, some of the very high-end bars. I have another side of my bartending that was a bit more less corporate because I worked in swingers club where I worked for many years there as a bartender. And one of the things I learned there is do not judge people, do not judge the book by its cover. I learned so much in interacting with different kind of people, how to speak to loads of different people, which is probably something that I used a lot in sales in the following years. One of the jobs that probably helped me to go to sales was door to door. I did that for the winter season in the French Alps. I was basically selling serigraphy and little paintings door to door, which was an horrible job because most of the people just knocked on the door and say, "Hey, I'm out of jail." And I decided to take a very different approach. I was a ski teacher off season doing this, and I decided to target student houses and student apartments, and I made a fortune. I actually paid my 3 years master by doing this, and I was making so much money. I had so much fun. Um, you start reading people, when people open the doors and there's a dog, you put your pictures with the dog on the first, and so many good way of like kind of bullshitting people a bit, but
I
hitting
get
them.
that. I get that. I ran a couple of bars and worked in a couple of bars in Dublin in my younger days. And the one thing about a bar is teaches you about people, but also teaches you how somebody's personality can turn. Because in a bar, something happens where somebody gets upset and it's how to deal with it, how to acknowledge it, how to see it coming. Or somebody happens and maybe a guy pulls a beautiful girl and all of a sudden he's happy and he's jubilant, and how to deal with that over happiness and curtail it so it doesn't spill into annoyance for the next people. But dealing with people and a mood change halfway through a process, that's
Yeah,
one thing I really pulled from working in a bar.
that's very, very true. And give people attention. The guy come once a week and drink the same thing. You just say the same,
Mm.
you just people buy from people. This connection, this bonding, this building rapport very quickly with people is it's one of your top strengths. From the day I met you, you're extremely good at this. And I think it's a very important thing because sales is extremely technical job. It's actually like medical things. You have one step to the other one. If you miss one, you need to come. It's actually extremely technical. People think you just need a bit of um, a bit of chat, and it's more complicated than this. But if you manage to create this at the start of the journey, it makes everything easier. So I think this is
100%.
an amazing experience. Yeah, door to door was probably my biggest learning curve in terms of like, being slapped in the face and go back. Every sale is a victory. You forget about the 15 failure you had. And that's something I learned in sport as well. I was a rugby player. I was extremely talented. I was not driven enough to do it, to make it a job. I learned from that as well. But you lose a game, you're already in the next one. You just don't cry for weeks about something you lost. You just keep going. And I think that's what I learned in all of these different jobs.
I played
Um,
rugby too, and one of the things that I loved most about playing rugby was you really learned your place in a team, and you learned to trust that the other people in the team will do their job. Because you can't, if you're a second center, you can't do a flanker's job for him.
that's it.
You're just out of position. You're letting everyone else behind you down. So
Yeah,
it's trusting people. And then if they don't do the job, understanding the personalities of who needs a kick in the ass or who needs an arm around the shoulder.
that's so true. You're nothing on your own. You can be the best on your own. I mean, okay, maybe in football you've got Ronaldo who just win with all of his teams, but you're really good with the people around you. Um, I think my army background really enforced this. I think the rugby and the army are two things that really created this kind of, you win together, you lose together, you learn together. Keep pushing, keep pushing. You know.
So on
Um,
that concept of keep pushing, is there a belief or a mindset that's guided you through your career that's really kind of kept you, that's been a common thread, whether it's, not jumping headfirst into a certain job or knowing that you're better together? Like, what is that belief or mindset that's kept you being successful? Because every role I've known you in, you're successful in.
it's I think there's few things here. It's a really good question actually, because that's something you get in sport. That's something you get obviously in the military. That's something you need to have in sales. There's two things. The first one is resilience. Whatever shit you're going, we can curse on this podcast, I guess. It's an Irish
Absolutely.
pub.
Okay, say what you need to.
Whatever situation you're in, if it's a good situation, everything is pink and great and brilliant, and that's not what you learn. If situation is bad, it will always get better at some stage. You need to hold tight until it gets better. It's never finished till the end. The amount of games and football and rugby games you see that are lost and then not lost, and then suddenly you've got a switch in the team and they start winning everything because it's happened here. And the mental, the resilience, the fact that you just don't give up. You try to do it differently. You try something different. You always try to challenge yourself with something new. But how do you say it? It's not finished till the fat lady sings, something like this. I'm not fat shaming anybody, but like that's kind of the thing.
I might be
Just
fat
to not
shaming
give up, and do it your way. Do it your way, and just keep going. This is to me the resilience. There's two important things to me in work, but in life: integrity and resilience. If
Yeah,
you keep going, I mean, when you're young, you can be very resilient. You make lots of mistakes, and it can slow you down. But the more you get, the more experience you get, the more you know it's going to get better. It's going to be different. Something's going
but
to happen.
couldn't agree more. One of the things I say when I'm mentoring people is sales is curiosity with integrity.
Yes. Yes.
Because you can't come with an agenda. You have to learn the agenda. It's their agenda, it's their project, it's their scope. But you have to listen with integrity. You can't listen to just respond. They go, oh, we have an issue with reporting. Oh, we have reporting.
Yeah.
Reporting's not the issue. Data is the issue. But you didn't get there because you didn't listen with integrity.
Nobody cares about you. They don't care. They
Yeah.
only care about themselves. So if you don't listen, if you don't show that you're interested, and if you're genuinely interested, it's even better. And that's another thing.
And
Be
people
interested to
recognize
show yourself.
genuine interest too. Like you can be interested, but if you're genuinely interested, they will lean in and they will share more because they'll see the integrity in the moment.
But we're going back to this human factor that we were discussing about the bartender and door to door, where you get this little thing with people, and you should be interested in learning what the customer you're talking to are doing, because you're gonna get better at your job by listening. But apart from your job, you could change your job tomorrow, next week, or next month. How interesting it is for you to be able to understand. I'm doing a very new job right now. I'm in an industry I never worked before. On paper, it doesn't look like the most sexiest one. It's construction and engineering. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's super interesting to know how people, and I'm actually having a few conversations with customers, and I am really enjoying the conversation. And I'm
Yeah,
learning, and I'm 53, and I'm learning new things, and that's what drives me.
I had that. I had that moving from construction to software sales, and now
Yeah,
I was selling into banking, and every day is learning what's the difference between derivatives and how investment banking differs from corporate banking. And I love that there's a constant learning curve, and I think software sales is one of the greatest ways to get yourself in front of new people, new markets, new things, because
yeah.
software touches everything. Like it's medical, it's construction, it's retail, it's everywhere.
And within one company, you should speak to 15 people because they all have different jobs. They all have
Uh-huh.
different things. And then you start getting the big picture. And that's why curiosity is one of the number one skills in sales. He wants to know, he wants to learn.
Okay, so with that being said, so you've acknowledged what success is there. It's being curious and getting that, and kind of broadening the net and diversifying your information and getting better information from more people and getting the bigger picture. So how would you define success for you now versus say success for you 20 years ago?
Yeah, that's interesting because when I saw when I saw this topic, and I was really interested because I actually had to spend some time thinking about it, to realize there's a gigantic gap.
Mm.
It's not even a gap anymore. It's a, when I was younger, I was looking at the end result. I know there's books in sales that you have to read that goes and say, always have the end result in mind. Brilliant. But when I was young, that's all I was looking at. So my success when I was younger was I need to close deals. I need results. I need to, I need to be the best sales. I need to make more money because I was never obsessed with money, but because I had to earn my own money very early, I was always obsessed with buying new good things.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to close deals. I was always thinking of my quarter in terms of how much money I'm gonna get. So I had a goal of like I need to get this, I need to buy this watch, I need to go somewhere. Um, and another thing that was really driving me and still does a bit today is recognition. I had a huge need for recognition. I had to have my boss saying, "It's so good what you're doing." I had to be, I went to the Quota Club numerous years. You're in the top 10% of the sales. All of this was really driving me a lot as an individual contributor. And through life, I think there's a lot of confidence issue around this. You need to be recognized. You need to be shown love. You need to, these kind of things, which are really tamed down now. I don't really care that much if you like me or not now, as long as I'm doing what I think is the right thing to do. And I need feedback and I need to know if I'm doing the right thing. What I'm trying to enjoy, but that came later in life. I had a manager who, when I thought I was the best sales guy in the world, who said, "Yeah, you're okay. You're right. But you are fucking so many things up." And the ego as a sales guy, you try to push the good and hide the what you do wrong. You try to compensate. And then I realized, like, if you start working on all of the little things you could improve, and you still focus, and you're still good at what you do. If you're good with people, you have a bit of charisma, a bit of chat, it's fine. Get the techniques, listen to the people. And I realized that actually, in my later years, the journey itself is really interesting. I really enjoy the journey now. And the job I took a few months ago is really about a company who's trying to just basically shift from being like a country per country, very, siloed and poor communication, to a company who's now opening with like a transverse management, with people managing different countries. And I just realized that the journey, if I just look at the things itself, the tasks, some of them are really hard to do because you have to just, work with salespeople to get the right thing. But at the same time, I'm looking at the journey, and the big difference now in my success is the ability to plan. Because what I didn't have in my early years, I got that probably late in my late 30s, and I worked a lot on my 40s in this. And I kind of defined a recipe for success that I won't trademark, but everywhere I go, I speak about this, is my APE system, APE. And when I do slides, I put a nice little funny monkey face. The French don't get that, but obviously in English it works. APE, attitude, preparation, execution. And that's a recipe that works in sport, in the military, in sales, and in life. If you manage to put your head in the right space, you need to think you can do it, because if you constantly think, "Oh, I won't be able to do this," it's going to be challenging. So you need to work on yourself first. But the attitude is very important. When your head is in the right spot, you need to plan very effectively. And you could run the 100 meters in 6 seconds. If you go the wrong direction, you will never win. So preparation is key. And you need to be patient. You need to analyze. You need to do some research. You need to do a lot of things. And when this is done, you have all the preparation in the world. So that's a rugby team training all week, working on the diet, working on the team spirit, AP. Then there's the execution. You need to just basically go put your head down and just execute. Don't think that much, just execute. And I used to be a bit lazy in a sense that I was going straight to the result. So if I could find some kind of shortcuts, I was going there straight away. And I think when you execute, hard work pays all the time, all the time. This is the only thing in life where there's a justice. Hard work pays. So when you have your plan, just execute. And midway, you just put your head up and just look, am I in the right direction? Do I get enough feedback? Can I put my ego down enough to get the feedback, to understand that, yeah, maybe I'm not doing that the right way. Maybe somebody else can do it better. Make sure you know the right people to work with, use the right resources. But this is my recipe. So the way I look at success now is how do I follow my 8 process from the start to the finish, and how can I measure that? I was
Okay.
not able to do that 15 years ago.
Yeah,
Very different.
it's like the difference between having targets and smart targets. If they're not measurable, actionable, reportable, and timely, they're not targets. They're just they're ambitions.
And feelings comes into the map,
Exactly. But there's
and
something you touched on there that I want to go back to. And you spoke about it's not the destination, it's the journey.
yeah,
And
big
you
time.
know I love stand-up comedy, and I know you do too.
Yes,
So Jimmy Carr had a lovely sentence about this, and he said, it's hard work or success without hard work is not enjoyable, right? Just you look at anybody with a trust fund and you'll see a troubled mind. He said, but it's not the destination and it's not the journey; it's who you become on the journey.
absolutely. And I invite everybody who watch this podcast to go to Jimmy Carr. This speech that he made, like I saw it on Instagram, this guy is absolutely brilliant. He's not just a good stand-up comedian. He's a very, very inspirational guy. And that's a really good point. I watched that numerous times. It's a
Yeah.
very good point. Enjoy the journey, even if it's hard.
Exactly. And look, the peaks aren't high if the valleys aren't low. You know what I mean? So like if everything was just good every day, good would become shit.
Yeah,
You have to have the struggle. Like closing a big deal is more fun when it was difficult.
yeah.
Winning an argument with your wife, which I've never actually done, I'm sure would be more wonderful if she wasn't so smart, right?
Yeah, yeah. I can't comment on that, but you're absolutely right. No, the journey is something that you need to enjoy. A different step. The fuck up are very interesting as well. I used to do that in
Mhm.
sales. Fucked up deal review. It's very hard for the sales people because they look like they think you're criticizing, and it's actually really interesting to do. If you're able to do it with your own things, then you
Yeah,
can do it with other people because you do it with like for a good cause, with a good reason behind it. But looking at the things you messed up is sometimes very hard to do.
100%, because you have to put your ego aside and go, I
Mhm.
dropped the ball here.
Yeah,
And again, coming from having played sport and being part of a team, I think it becomes easier when you're that, because when you well, at least when I messed up playing rugby, I'd be the first to go, that was on me. And if you made that mistake a second time, well, then get me off the pitch.
yeah. And again, sometimes who's responsible is not like, okay, you know who's responsible if the same person do the same mistake
Mm,
15 times. Either the person is in the right position or they need some enablement and coaching. But it's a collective responsibility. Who messed up? I don't care. What
exactly.
went wrong? How can we make sure it doesn't happen again? You don't want to start going in the blame role, in the blame game, because a lot of people have big egos in sales. You need a big ego in sales to be able to. It's a very hard job. It's an extremely challenging job. Um, but yeah, being able to reflect on that is a good one.
So if you bumped into yourself 20 years ago, or you bumped into somebody who's 20 years behind in your career now, what's the what's the best advice you could give them to maybe not make some of the mistakes you've made, or maybe making some of the mistakes is the key, right? But what's the best advice you could give somebody coming behind you in your career?
But listen, it's a very interesting question as well because I have two little boys. They're 6. And I tend to want to do everything I didn't have when I was a kid. And I went through some, like all of us, challenges and stuff. And I'm very in between, like trying to protect them and not overprotecting them, and trying to give them how can I say, the good values without controlling too much and try to let them make mistake. But there's few things that are, I think, important for sure in the professional life. In the personal life, there's probably 25 more things that add. Um, One of the very important one, I never worked on this for most of my life until probably reached my late 30s. What's really important to you as a person? In a job, you can do whatever job, you can be this, but it's very important. There's few things to me, because you need to have to be good at something. You need to have the right attitude. You need to have your head in the right position, in the right mindset. Um, you need to find what is it that you really want to do with this job, or what is you want to achieve, or what's, want to achieve is a bit vague, but what really drives you? What do you want to do? Because even if you're 50, you're never too old enough to do something horrible all your life. You spend more time in work than with your family. Try to find something that works for you. The second one, I just went through the APE. Make sure you have that in mind. Attitude, preparation, execution, if you want to be successful at something. Sometimes the preparation could be very boring, sometimes it could be very interesting, but it has to be there. It's very important. So prepare and plan before you do anything. It's easier to say when you're 50 than when you're 20, but very important. One thing that I heard in your first podcast with Brian, that actually we're all working in Oracle in Dublin, so it's a place where lots of extremely good people did really good things in their life. He said something about his instinct, trust his instinct, and that's something that I had since I'm born, I guess. Trust your guts. If your gut says something, doesn't mean don't do it, doesn't mean do it, but you really always have to have that in your mind. If it's too good to be true, sometimes it's probably not the thing to do. But trust your guts and be bold. Do things. My wife and my family sometimes they laugh. They say, when you're dead, we'll put on your tomb, fuck it, because that used to be me all the time. It's like, oh, fuck it, let's do it. What can happen? Fail, or I mean, okay, if the fuck it, I can die again. Why not? Depending on what are the risks. These are the very important things. Trust your guts. Do something that works for you. Be bold. Prepare if you can. And the last thing professionally that I learned from pretty young, that we all had in your podcast, all the guests, your dad, maybe not the man, the second one, but Brian had that, expatriate yourself. If you could live abroad, if you could work abroad, I do not see one negative except you're not close to your family. Okay, but again, you gain a lot of things from that. Get away, go away. You need balls. It's not easy. But if you manage to do it, your career is going to take this.
But what it did for me is it removed the safety net.
There's no safety net anymore.
Exactly. I was in America, and if I didn't make rent that month, I was homeless. So it removed the safety net, and it put that grit and that determination in you. And there's only one thing I'd add to what I agree with everything you just said. There's one thing I would add to that is understand your why.
Yeah.
Because you can't put in the hard yards if you don't have something bigger than getting a slightly bigger commission check. That can't be enough. And mine was changing the trajectory of my family. Mine was showing my nieces and nephews that growing up in Ireland, that Wicklow or Bray or Dunleary, your ambitions are bigger than those towns.
Ireland was too small for you. I said that from the first few months we met. But I think I can't say every successful person, because there's probably very successful people who never left their country or their town, and that's brilliant. But I truly, deep in my core, think that if you manage to travel, expatriate yourself, work abroad, you're going to learn so much. First, you're going to learn languages, because that's another, in the company I'm in now, we might have some challenges with the fact that everything was siloed. People were French, working for the French company, speaking French, Spanish, we're speaking, and we have some people that are struggling now in the business world to speak English, and it's a problem. So it could be English, could be other languages. So the more language you speak, the better. If you can work in this language, it's even better. You're probably going to have more opportunities to grow in the jobs and your career progression. It's 100% of the people I met in the last, I left France, I would say almost 30 years ago. But every single one person I met, from the young biz dev guy that worked in Oracle in Ireland for a few years, that just came to Ireland, learned a language, all of them now, if you look at their job, they're all in their early 30s. They are all managers or extremely successful salespeople in major companies. I'm not talking about, the small local companies, multinational, but like very, very good companies. They have very good salaries. They have very interesting jobs, and they will progress all the time because they get that from the moment you go somewhere in a different culture, you have a job, you will get more responsibilities very quickly, and people will trust your abilities more than your diplomas or who you knows, and
But I
that
think
to me,
I,
life
I think
changer.
what the travel does, essentially, certainly what it did for me is it made me comfortable in discomfort. So I was more willing to get out of my comfort zone more often. And physically removing yourself from your comfort zone makes it easier then to further on down the road mentally remove yourself from your comfort zone.
This is the essence of the special forces. Be comfortable in the uncomfortable. It's cold, you're still alive, you're still running, you're still breathing. It's cold, yeah. So what? And that works for like you need to get out of your comfort zone. You need to do this presentation in front of these people. You are not great at presenting. Happy days. You're going to present. You make people do it. And it's like your exam. You just work for months and you stress. And then you go to the exam. And it's like, oh, that's it. That was okay. And it's the
But then,
same when you do a stressful presentation.
so what you've just done there is you've put into practice your ape theory.
That's
Because
it.
the preparation is going through it in your head and being prepared, and the execution is going giving that thing you hated. I was terrified of public speaking, so I did stand-up comedy because nothing's more terrifying than standing there
Oh,
without a script.
this is the big respect for stand-up for this reason. You just go in front of somebody and you just
Yeah, you're
say
vulnerable from
things.
the first second.
Yeah, being vulnerable is very, very good. Let yourself being vulnerable. Don't try to hide and be a rock. Doesn't make sense. You're not. Yeah,
Cool. Well, look,
yeah.
Seb, the last question we always ask here on the Irish Goodbye is we're about to get up from the bar, pay our check, and go home. If there was a bar napkin on the bar in front of you, what's the one bit of wisdom you'd write on the back of that bar napkin to leave for the person who's going to sit down next?
What we just said about the comfort zone. Just, just do something that makes you feel uncomfortable, and you're gonna have so much fun in doing this that you're gonna start enjoying doing it. Be uncomfortable, and then I would sign fuck it.
Fantastic. Look, Seb, as always, is a pleasure speaking with you. You're
Yeah.
somebody I adore. As I said, I know you a very long time. We've owned a business together. You're somebody who I'm going to see in Spain again in September.
A few weeks.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being on my podcast, and thank you for sharing your wisdom. I appreciate you.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, and have a lovely day.
All right, be
Bye
good, brother.
now.
All right, bye-bye.